I'd like to give you a little introduction into what we're doing in week 5. So let's do that. First thing is the pre-question. I actually want to talk about the pre-question, and I want you to do the pre-question before we get into this because it really helps us understand what's going on this week. It's kind of a new world. So here's the story. You control one of 2 firms that sells an undifferentiated good into a market with the following market demand curve. P equals 100 minus Q, where that total Q is the sum of what firm 1 and what firm 2 produces. You're firm 1, so you're going to be choosing Q1. Let's say both firms have 0 costs, so no fixed costs, no marginal costs. That keeps this relatively simple, but preserves all the important issues. Your payoff is your revenue, the price that gets determined in the marketplace as a function of the sum of their output and your output, times the quantity that you produce. So if you think about this, the higher is the Q1 that you choose, the bigger is whatever you're multiplying P by. However, the higher is the Q1 that you choose, the lower is P. And of course, what you don't know is the Q the other party is choosing. So here's how the problem that I want you to think about works. We will determine your payoff by pairing your output choice with the average of the output choices made by your classmates. That is, for Q2, I'll substitute in the average of everybody else's output choices. The student with the highest payoff, so you choose the Q1 that gets you the highest payoff, gets 1 extra credit point, equivalent to 1 additional point on one of the exams. So it's going to be a 100-point exam, 1 point. So it's actually not trivial, but I'm not giving away the store either. Your task is to input a number and go ahead and use as many decimal places as you want. So these can be fractional amounts, this Q1 that you choose. Okay, so I want you to go off and think about that and then input the answer. You're not being graded, but there is this 1 point at stake as a reward for the person who in some sense wins. All right, so then back to the outline for this week. This is Oligopoly Game Theory Week. You already, in some sense, understand what I'm talking about if you've thought through the pre-question. So the first model we'll talk about is called the homogeneous goods duopoly model. 2 firms make an identical good, and the question is, what quantities of output do we expect to see at the marketplace? What prices do we expect to see? Related questions, how does this relate to the outcomes with a monopoly? So that's one broad topic. Second topic, we'll apply that model and think about a different way for things to unfold. Instead of 2 firms moving simultaneously or moving without knowing what the other firm is doing, we'll instead think of a situation where 1 firm gets to move first, knowing how the other firm would react. And you'll know what I mean by that, soon. Then a third topic we'll talk about is quantity competition and the prisoner's dilemma. So as it's going to turn out, there are a few kind of focal answers, that is quantity choices for each of the firms. And so we want to think about how the firm chooses between, let's say, its 2 most obvious choices, and that'll lead us to the prisoner's dilemma, which is a pretty interesting topic in and of itself. Then we'll use this model to revisit the question of how many firms fit in a market. We talked about this early in the course. Now we have a more sophisticated tool for thinking about it. The final topic then, instead of thinking about homogeneous products, we'll think about oligopoly, or in this case duopoly, with 2 firms that produce differentiated products. Now what's different about that is that instead of quantity being the only thing they can control, now they have some control over price as well. My product and your product aren't identical. We don't have to have the same price. So it's an interesting, different strategic variable. We'll talk about contexts like that and a model for contexts like that. So this is big stuff we're doing this week. It should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.